he's been off an awfully long time, and then to step into playoff hockey is so difficult to do. So the critical piece to the game, right? He scores a goal in the power play, which is part of the reason why they get the next opportunity, and that clearly was a huge goal for us. And then, of course, the game winner. So he was just almost symbolic of the year that he had for us. Nikolaj had a brilliant year here, and he's kept it going. So we're clearly happy to have him back.
We'll go next to Jamie Thomas from 680 CJOB Jets Radio. Go ahead, Jamie.
Hey, Paul, you win 63% of the faceoffs tonight. The game winner comes off a clean win from Stastny. What can you say about the work that was done by your team in the faceoff circle?
Yeah, we struggled with it a little bit early, last game. So we got better in the scrum department of those, and kind of the help from the wingers, really important. I know there's no statistical correlation between faceoffs and winning, except when you play against a team that has some possession players like they do. It's a big part of the game.
We'll go next to Paul Friesen from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Paul.
Paul, what's it like to experience a comeback like that on the bench, from the bench? And when's the last time you think you did experience
it? In playoffs, Paul, it about 19 years, down 3-0 in Montreal. Came back, tied it, and won in overtime. So what's really important about it is actually all the steps that go into it. So even if you don't get all the way back to 4, there's the important part of fighting back into a game and not going quietly, right? And but boy, when you get back and you have a win like that, you get to carry that for a while. You get to carry that belief in your game, that hope that even if you're down and we're going to be faced with a really, really determined kind of backs against the wall team tomorrow. If it happens again, there's a built-in belief. We've been through it now, so it's a critical piece. A really important asset in playoff hockey is to have that belief that you can come back and 4-1 with that time on the clock. I think that's the biggest one I've been behind the bench for. So we get to carry that.
We'll go next to Scott Bilick from the Winnipeg Sun. Go ahead, Scott.
Thanks, Gregor. Paul, what was your thoughts on the hit initially? And did you see it as, I mean, it seems like an obvious turning point, but did you find it that way as well?
Well, the result of it is the turning point. Whether, the key is we score the goal, and that changes everything. And there's time on the clock then. I'll leave that to the referees and to the league to see how they view it. But I'm glad there was a call on the play, because clearly there was a call, and a rightful call, and it gave us a chance, right? You need the door open somehow, sometimes, and getting back on the power play, a place that maybe we've struggled with a little bit, the confidence again, scoring power play goals, feeling that you can every time you go out on the ice is another really good thing to have in your back pocket.
We'll go back to Scott Bilick for a follow-up. Go ahead, Scott.
And speaking of the power play, Paul, I mean, the second unit, I think, goes out on the second time that you had, because Scheifele's line just played, and then they just kind of took it from there. Is it just them just working well together? I mean, Pierre-Luc Dubois looked well on it. Ehlers, again, it almost seemed like they were just back to where they were.
Yeah, it didn't take much, right? There's lots of really good video for those guys to see. They move off each other. Well, the secret guy almost, so Nicky Ehlers clearly is a piece that we've missed. But it's Matty Perreault at front. I mean, he does just, so Matty's not looking out there necessarily to score goals on that shot. He's there for the screen, and he's really good at it. But those guys go out and practice, and they look the exact same way, right? They have fun with it. Has been an advantage over time of them coming out second as they come out with less pressure. They got a shorter amount of time. So what they've done is they've learned to get really good on short time. Now they're probably going to get longer time now, but the short time power play has forced that unit to get really fast and really aggressive with what they do. It's become who they are, and they're good at it.
We'll go next to Sarah Oleski from TSN. Go ahead, Sarah.
Paul, just to follow up on an earlier question, can you describe a little bit more what the emotion was like on the bench and what you saw over that 3-minute stretch?
Yeah, you know what? It was similar to the. I mean, when you score and that you feel like you have momentum. The guys are talking and there's a lot of enthusiasm, but that wasn't a whole lot different than it was the whole game. Right? They were together, right? They were engaged. They didn't get quiet on the bench. They didn't become resigned to the result. They one shot. That's all you need. One shot. And that's what they kept saying, and get a puck to the net with traffic, just keep going. And then when it got 4-2, it was like, well, we've got nothing else to lose here but a hockey game, so let's get after it. And so that would be me paraphrasing the kind of an ease that came into our bench at that point. Let's just throw everything at the net and see what happens.
We'll go back to Sarah Oleski for a follow-up. Go ahead, Sarah.
And Paul, that momentum, I mean, from the end of the third and obviously the overtime win, do you believe that can carry over into a game when it's played immediately the following night?
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that because I've never done back-to-back in the NHL in the playoffs, so this is going to be a new event. I mean, the only disappointing thing of the game was there weren't Jets fans in the building, because that would have been something for them to experience. I mean, that would have been momentum, right? You could feel it building. So we'll see. We're going to do our best to recover now, to get ready to understand that there will be their backs against the wall, the best they have, a really, really hard push from that team. And I thought we saw that in the first period. We've been down 5-on-3 twice now, so we'd like to avoid that if we can, and then get to the courage that we saw in the third.
We'll go next to Mike McIntyre from the Winnipeg Free Press. Go ahead, Mike.
Hi, Paul. Just want to ask you about, I think it was 3 shifts that the Lowry line had against the McDavid line in overtime that seemed to me almost the whole duration of those 3 shifts was spent in Edmonton's end. They really hemmed them in and really neutralized them. How key, I guess, was that to just getting you guys to the point where you could win that game?
Yeah, important there, but important probably right at the start of the third. Just keeping them off the scoreboard. We're behind, obviously, so I'm trying to move those lines around and made adjustment on this Stastny, then the Dubois line. But yeah, for a minute's played, it was really important. They've got a big lead, so they ran their bench a little longer for a period of time, which I don't think we'll see tomorrow night. But they were really important in that, holding that line even, never letting it get beyond, like keeping it in our grasp. It was critical.
We'll go next to Murat Atesh from The Athletic. Go ahead, Murat.
Thanks, Gregor. Hi, Paul. A moment ago, you used the word courage. Josh Morrissey used the word resilience. Where do those things come from, and what is their role in a game like this? And sorry to add a third layer. Does the early series success make it easier to draw on those things?
I think so. I think you want to be a part of it. Like, these guys are really close knit, and they have been all year. And I thought that early we were a little bit tight in that game in terms of how we move the puck, because nobody wants to make a mistake, right? It's kind of almost that we were protecting the first 2 wins a little bit early in the game, and we didn't move the puck. So there's some courage that's there, and then resilience in that. Even at 4-1, the talk on the bench isn't, I mean, it's not quiet on the bench. In the regular season game, you'd have a quiet bench, right? But in this, they stayed in the fight, which is, the key piece to that resilience, that how you finished did matter. How we finished the game was important. And then we had something good happen, and then just build on it and find a way to keep going. Resilience will be tested over and over again in the playoffs. It happens in periods. It happens shift after shift. So having success by being resilient, by staying in the fight, even if you don't know the outcome of the game, will become part of what you believe is true and is important, and it'll become who you are.
And final question to Sean Reynolds from Sportsnet. Go ahead, Sean.
Thanks, Gregor. Hey, Paul. You said that stay in the fight. You also talked about, that's a theme from earlier in the year, and you talked about being able to carry what you did here tonight forward with you, that confidence from doing it. I'm wondering if, if you go back to early in the season where your team had come back in a couple of games, fought their way back into games, and the line back then was you were able to stay in the fight. Is that something that you believe you carried into tonight?
I think so. I didn't think that our game changed drastically when we got down. We didn't completely open the game up, which would have been the end of the game for us. So we were able to kind of not get too far off what we're trying to do defensively and push the game a little bit. I thought we had, they had slightly more chances than we did. We come out of the first period, the shots, even strength shots are 9-7 for them, and we're on our heels a little bit, but they had 8 power play shots. I didn't think we ever got to that breaking point where we opened our game up completely, which would have completely then taken us out of the game. I thought we stayed in the fight and we were disciplined enough with our game that it gave us a chance.
Thanks very much, Coach. Thanks, everyone. We'll let you know the schedule on Twitter as soon as we are aware. Have a good night.